All right, moving on. Let's have item number 31. The point 25 is blank of x squared plus y squared minus 6x plus 8y minus 49 equals 0. Is it at the interior, at the exterior, on the circumference, or a singular point? What do you think? There are many ways of doing this. And one way of doing this is that you could actually express this equation of the circle in standard form. And for such, we could see that if you have this one grouping like terms, or I mean grouping terms with x and grouping the terms with y's and isolating the constant on the right-hand side, we have x squared minus 6x plus y squared plus 8y equals 49. Now, we will be completing the square. So to complete the first one, remember here, if the leading coefficient is 1, you could just simply divide this coefficient of x by 2, then square the result. So negative 6 divided by 2, it's negative 3. Square will be 9. So you have to add 9 here. For y squared plus 8y, so 8 divided by 2, that's 4, squared, that's 16. That's why I added here 16 as well. I added 9 and 16 on the left. I also added 9 and 16 on the right. And if we simplify this, the right side will become 74. And whereas x squared minus 6x plus 9 could be expressed as the square of x minus 3, and that y squared plus 8y plus 16 could be expressed as the square of y plus 4. And you could see that this 74 here is in fact our r squared. What we can do next is, we will substitute the point which is 2, 3. We will replace the x by 2 and y by, 2, 5. We will replace the x by 2 and y by 5. And let's see the result. So if that happens, 2 minus 3 quantity squared plus 5 plus 4 quantity squared equals, this is negative 1 squared, that's 1. 5 plus 4, that's 9 squared, will be 81, which is 1 plus 81, which is now 82. And the principle is, if your answer is greater than the r squared here, then the point lies outside or at the exterior of the circle. If it equated here to your r squared, it will lie on the circumference. But if it is smaller than your r squared, then it will be at the interior. But since 82 is larger than 74, therefore, we could say that 25 is at the exterior of your circle, and that the answer here is letter B. Okay, 32. The graph of x squared plus y squared plus 2x plus 4y plus 5 equals 0 is what? Is it a circle, a parabola, an ellipse, or a point circle? So you could see here that doing the same procedure as number 31, isolating the constant on the right-hand side and grouping terms with the same variable x, we arrive to x squared plus 2x plus y squared plus 4y equals negative 5. So completing the square, so we have here 2 divided by 2, that's 1. Squared will be 1 plus 1. 4 divided by 2 will be 2, squared will be 4. So plus 1 plus 4 on the left, plus 1 plus 4 also on at the right. And this becomes x plus 1 quantity squared plus y plus 2 quantity squared equals 0. You could see that 0 here is in fact your r squared. And this implies that the value of our radius or r is 0. And if that happens, you have what we call a point circle. Letter D. When we say point circle, in this case, the graph of a point circle is in fact only the coordinates of the center, which are -1, -2. It's just a point, nothing more. All right. Moving on to the next one, to 33. What is the equation of the circle with center at 1,4 and is tangent to the x-axis? Which of these four is correct? Okay. So if you could see, this is now the graph. And if this is the 0.14, and when we say tangent to the x-axis, it touches the x-axis at exactly 1 point. And this tells us that it's tangent here, it intersects this part of the x-axis. And this tells us that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 units as our radius, with center at 1,4. And so we have now the center at 1,4 and radius 4. We can now substitute it to the standard form or the center radius form of your circle, which is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. And we have x minus 1 quantity squared plus y minus 4 quantity squared equals 4 squared. And the right-hand side will be simplified to 16. Hence, the correct answer here is letter C. All right. Okay. Number 34. What is the domain of the function y equals x plus 2 all over x minus 5? This is in fact a rational function. Is it x not equal to 5, x not equal to -5, x not equal to 0, or all real numbers? When we speak about domain, it is the set of all allowable values of x that would yield a real value of y. And since you have here a rational function, the only way for a rational function to be undefined is when your denominator is when your denominator is equal to 0. Hence, if we equate the denominator to 0, then that's x minus 5 not equal to 0, and adding both sides by 5, you get x not equal to 5. Hence, letter A is our answer. In fact, it's any real number except for 5, because 5 here will make the denominator 0 and the expression undefined. Number 35. The parabola y equals x minus 3 quantity squared plus 7 is the graph of y equals x squared 1. How is it shifted? Was it shifted how many units to the right? To the left? How many units upward or downward? So in solving a question like a problem like this, what we could do is actually we have to identify the vertex first. And using our knowledge or about finding the vertex of your parabola, this is in fact in vertex form already, and the vertex of this is at the point 3, 7. And this 3 here being positive indicates that it's shifted 3 units to the right. And here, by the way, the first number here, it tells you if it's shifted to the left or right. If it's positive, meaning to the right. If it's negative, meaning to the left. The second here, the 7, the y coordinate or the k, it tells you of the vertical shift. If it's positive, meaning it's shifted upward. But if the k here is negative, then it's shifted downward. But since the h here is positive, meaning it shifted 3 units to the right. And since the 7 here is positive, it's shifted. The graph is the same as that of x squared. I mean this one. After shifting 3 units to the right, it was also shifted 7 units upward. Hence, the correct answer here is letter C. Okay. Moving on to item number 36. The equation of a diagonal of a rhombus is 8x plus 3y plus 10 equals 0. what is the slope of the other diagonal? Negative 8/3, negative 3/8, 3/8, or 8/3? Which of these do you think? And one of the important things here is that we have to get first the slope of 8x plus 3y plus 10 equals 0. So, but remember that diagonals of a rhombus are always perpendicular to each other, meaning diagonals of a rhombus always intersect at right angles. And remember that two lines of which neither are horizontal nor vertical are perpendicular to each other if their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. So if you have 8x plus 3y equals 10, and if you transform this to the slope-intercept form, you will have y equals negative 8/3 x minus 10/3. So the slope here is negative 8/3. But aside from that, if you are given the general or standard form, to get the slope, you just simply use the formula negative a over b, where a and b are the numerical coefficients of x and y respectively in the standard or general form. But nevertheless, we could see that the slope here is negative 8/3, and the slope of the line perpendicular to it should be its negative reciprocal, which is 3/8. To achieve the value, by the way, of the negative reciprocal, all you have to do is get the reciprocal of that number and change its sign from positive to negative. But remember, as much as possible, I'm talking about non-horizontal non-horizontal or non-vertical lines here. So I'm expecting a slope which is neither 0 nor undefined. So it will go with letter C. 37. ABCD is a parallelogram. If A has coordinates 0, 0, B with coordinates BC, and D with coordinates AO, what are the coordinates of point C without adding other letters? Is it B plus C A plus B C, A plus B C A, or A squared B squared? What do you think? So to do this, we have to remember some important concepts. That is, let's say we don't know the coordinates of xy first, of C rather. Let's call it xy, be the coordinates of point C. We could actually see that BC, that AD is horizontal, and so BC should also be horizontal because horizontal lines are parallel with one another, and it's a necessity for AD and BC to be parallel because that is one of the properties of a rhombus. And if BC is a horizontal segment, then they should have the same y value. That's why the y value here of point C should be the same with B, which is this small letter C here. And we have a problem. We still need to find the value of the x coordinates. But we have to remember that AD and CD are also parallel with one another. So they must have equal slopes. And with such, we know that this is the formula for slope, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So by substitution for the slope here, we have C minus 0 all over B minus 0. For here, it should be, remember, it should be y minus 0, but y now is C. So we have C minus 0 all over x minus A. Simplifying the left-hand side, we have C over B equals C all over x minus A. And since both of their numerators are C, then it follows that x minus A is in fact equal to your B, meaning your denominators here have to be equal. That's why I just made the shortcut. and adding both sides by a, that gives you x, which is a plus b. Hence, the x coordinate of point C is a plus b, and its y coordinate is c. Hence, the correct answer is a plus b, comma, c, letter B. 38. Determine the endpoints of the median of the trapezoid whose vertices are 7, 4, 3, negative 2, negative 1, 3, and 1, 6. So in my case here, I opted to graph them, or to plot these points and graph them, and draw the trapezoid rather. And if you could see, the parallel sides are CD and BA. Okay? And you could actually confirm that they are parallel on your own. You could see that the slope of DC is in fact equal with the slope of AB, but that will serve as your exercise. And we are looking actually for the endpoints of the median of the trapezoid, or in other books, they call it the midline. And to do such, the midline is in fact in here, no? It's the midpoint of the two. You have to get the midline, or the endpoints of the midline. All you have to do is find the midpoint of each of the two non-parallel sides, and after getting their midpoints, you could draw them. You could draw the segment connecting them. That's your midline. But anyway, we are asked of the coordinates, so we have to get the coordinates of CB, of the midpoint of CB. And to get the midpoint, remember, we simply get the mean of the x coordinates and the mean of the two y coordinates. I'm talking about their endpoints. So here, for the CB, so you could see that negative 1 plus 3 all over 2, and the y component is 3 plus negative 2 all over 2. And this simplifies to 2 over 2, or 1, and 1/2. So these are the coordinates of CB. And for DA, that would be here 1 plus 7 divided by 2, and 6 plus 4 all over 2, which simplifies to the coordinate, to the point 4, 5. Hence, it's letter A, 1, 1/2 or 0.5, 4, 5. All right. 39. Triangle ABC has coordinates A, 1, 4, B, 2, 8, and C, 0, 5. What is the equation of the median through C? Which of these 4 choices do you think is the correct answer? Okay, let's see. So to do this, in my case, it's important that I draw first the triangle, no? If you wish. In fact, drawing may be necessary, but if you know the principle behind it, there's no need to draw. But in my case, I drew it. When we speak about median, it is a line that passes through the vertex and the midpoint of the opposite side. So if I have here A, B, and C, and I'm looking of the median through C, then it should pass C with coordinates 0, 0, 5, and the midpoint of this BA here. And I designated the midpoint as D with coordinates 1.5, 6. And how is that true? By using the midpoint formula. That is, you get the average or the mean of the x coordinates. So that's 1 plus 2 all over 2, comma, 4 plus 8 all over 2. That's for AB, okay? 1 plus 2 all over 2, comma, 4 plus 8 all over 2. And that simplifies to 3/2, 6, or 1.56. And indeed, this point is the midpoint. And so you have now 2 points. You can now find the, you have here your line CD. And our task now is find the equation of line CD. And since you are given 2 points, you have two options. You could either use the 2-point form of a line, or you could also use the point slope form. In my case, I will use the slope, find the slope first of CD. And using the formula for slope, that would be 6 minus 5 all over 1.5, or 3/2 over minus 0. 6 minus 5 is 1. And your denominator is 3/2. And 1 divided by 3/2 is 2/3. Which means the slope of this line CD is 2/3. And now I have a slope of 2/3, and I can use either point C and D and plug them in what we call the point slope form, which is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So in my case, I chose the point 0.5. But if you choose 1.56, don't worry, you will still get the same answer. But I will choose 0.5 now. And by substitution, that becomes y minus 5 equals 2/3 times the quantity x minus 0. So that becomes y minus 5 equals 2/3 x. And multiplying both sides by 3 to clear off fractions, we have 3y minus 15 equals 2x. Expressing this now in standard form, you have 2x minus 3y equals negative 15, and that is letter A. All right. Number 40. What kind of triangle has coordinates 1, 4, 5, 6, and 3, 7? Is it equilateral, isosceles, scalene, or cannot be determined? So to do such, it's important that you know the lengths of each side of the triangle. What others do is they plot the points, draw the triangle, and estimate if it's equilateral, isosceles, or scalene. But for now, I will be utilizing the distance formula between 2 points to determine the lengths of each sides of the triangle. Note that I will no longer draw the triangle. And if we use or find the distance of AB using this formula, I let this as my x sub 2, x sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 1, y sub 2, x sub, wait. This is x sub 1, y sub 1. This is x sub 2, y sub 2. And by plugging it in, I have the distance with AB, which is equal to the square root of 1 minus 5 quantity squared plus 4 minus 6 quantity squared. And you get the square root of that entire thing. What's inside simplifies to negative 4 squared plus negative 2 squared. And later on simplifies to 20. And square root of 20 is square root of 4 times 5 inside. And this simplifies to, the square root of 4 is 2 and should be taken outside. So distance AB is 2 square root of 5, or AB is 2 square root of 5 units long. For distance AC, so I have here the point 1, 4 and 3, 7, and applying the same concept, we have here the square root of the quantity 1 minus 3 squared plus 4 minus 7 squared. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. You squared it, that becomes 4. And plus this one, 4 minus 7 is negative 3. You square it, that's 9. So 4 plus 9 is 13. And distance AC is square root of 13. And that segment AC is square root of 13 units long. And for the length of BC, that's 5 minus 3 quantity squared plus 6 minus 7 quantity squared, and you get the square root of the entire thing. That simplifies the 5 minus 3 is 2, so squared, plus the 6 minus 7, it's negative 1 squared. Then what's inside simplifies to 5, and the length of BC is square root of 5 units. We could see from here that no two sides are equal. So it's safe and it's correct to say that the triangle is scalene? Letter C.